Well, good evening, friends. David Jackson coming to you from the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce here on Tuesday, the 22nd of October. Keep taking those steps forward, folks. We're making progress here as our community continues to respond from the impacts of Hurricane Helene. A couple of quick notes for you here this evening. Won't keep you too long. First thing is about the curfew in Watauga County. There has been an adjustment that has been put into place today that will take effect tomorrow. So that new curfew time, effective Wednesday, October 23rd, will be midnight to 6 a.m. So an extra hour on either side of that. Any further adjustments that will be made to that curfew, including potentially the elimination of the curfew, those decisions will be made on Monday. So we'll have this curfew time in place through the weekend of midnight to 6 a.m. So hopefully, again, that gives a little bit more grace period on the front and the back of that for those businesses that are out there. And remember, too, an important point, this curfew is not meant to impede people from getting to business to do business, right? So if you've got people making the biscuits at 6 a.m. or closing down the restaurants at midnight, they can move about. Those are considered essential personnel, and they can move about the community after that curfew is over, if you will, or gets into that period. This is meant to be catching people in places that they're not supposed to be, doing things they're not supposed to do, right? There are still reports of looting, especially around some of the supply gathering depots that are still here in Watauga County, and this is meant to curtail some of that activity and keep people, again, out of places that are closed or maybe just places they're not supposed to be. So keep in mind, this is a very important law enforcement tool that is necessary at this point in time. We do thank the Watauga County commissioners, Watauga County staff, the town of Boone for just continuing to kind of evaluate this over time and being willing to make adjustments when they feel like it's necessary and proper to do so. So thank you very much for that. Speaking of adjustments, a lot of people continuing to try to make adjustments in their businesses right now. We understand that based on the conversations we're having, it's getting tougher. You know, that loss of revenue that we saw at the beginning of the month is while some people are starting to make their way back. We've got a football weekend coming up this weekend. We've got more, I'll call it leaf traffic that's starting to make their way into the community. You still can't make up for what you missed out on. And that was 3 weeks of in normal times, incredibly good revenue that makes a lot of businesses work throughout the rest of the year. We put a survey out to our members, got the final results of that. You're looking at the majority of respondents that we got out of just about 200 submissions from our member businesses. You're looking at somewhere between 30 and 60% revenue loss for the month of October, some much higher than that. As a matter of fact, a growing number, much higher in the 70 to 80% range. But then you also look at how much of that October revenue factors into what businesses make for the year. And somewhere between 20 and 40% is where the vast majority of respondents show. So what that says is October is an important month. We've all known that. And October has been a very, very down month for revenue, and we all understand the reasons why for that. So as we are making our way farther away from those immediate impacts of the storm and getting into a spot where we're starting to see more people come to our community, we've obviously got the football game coming up this weekend. Again, just be mindful of the fact that right now, there's no other source or no other big source, because we do have a source I'm going to talk about in a second, but no other big source of governmental funding that is in place to help businesses at this point. SBA loans, the disaster loans, like we talked about, they've run out of funding for that. It will take Congress to reauthorize funds, and they've said they're not going to do that until after the election. The state is actually going back into session with the state government on Thursday. They will be discussing some disaster aid, but it's likely that major moves in that will be made after the election, and not necessarily as much because of the election cycle, but because the state is still trying to quantify what the loss actually was. And the loss was so great in some Western counties that it's just taking them long to understand what was in place before it was completely washed away. So that's just some of the kind of behind the scenes of why you haven't seen the big number yet that says this was the storm's impact in North Carolina, because they haven't been able to calculate it, other than to say it's the deadliest storm on record in the state, and it's going to be the most costly storm on record in the state. You can guarantee of that. So absent of that governmental help, and thanks to the generosity of donors near and far, today the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce Foundation announced the creation of Hope for the High Country. And within that, we have a business stability or business resilience disaster grant. We've got about $350,000, give or take, that we've got in a pool to be able to make available to businesses that demonstrate a need for money. There's no other way to say it, right? We've lost so much. It's impacting the way that people are able to operate. Some have started to furlough or lay off staff. Some are facing having to pay their rent and not having the working capital to do that, or even just kind of stocking up for these weekends that are ahead. Makes it hard without any revenue. And that's one of the things about loans too. Even some of those low interest loans, it's hard to think about taking on more debt when you don't have a guaranteed path to revenue just yet. We're getting closer to that, especially here in Boone and Blowing Rock proper. But as we know, many communities throughout our area are dealing with more challenges, and with that, not quite ready to make that turn toward welcoming people back yet. So quick details on the grant. Urge you to go to boonechamber.com. This is available for members of the chamber and non-members, and this is available for businesses in Watauga, Ashe, and Avery counties. Like I said, we've got somewhere between $325,000, $350,000 to work with. We'll be taking applications, and the application process is front and center on the website. Click on the disaster grant link right there at the beginning, and that'll take you all the way through the process and how you can get information to us so we can ultimately start to evaluate those applications and get some money out the door. We're going to have this period open till noon on Monday. This is what we hope is a first round. We are going to continue to fundraise for this. And hopefully the more money we get, the more money we can pump into this being the primary focus of the foundation at this point in time. So if you're interested in trying to figure out, hey, how can I support this area right now? I'd like to donate to something, but wonder what that something might be. I'd encourage you to do this, because this is going to go directly into the hands of the small businesses that need it the most. We've got a group that will begin evaluating applications as they come in, and then we'll hopefully make some awards before the end of the weekend, or start that process and continue that through Monday at noon. And then we'll see where things stand. So again, if you've got some interest in the business community, kind of wondering how to make your part or your impact known, this is a great way to do so. And donation information also available there at boonechamber.com as well. Final thought on the weekend, there's going to be a little bit more traffic up here, certainly with the football game. And again, thank you to App State for continuing that conversation throughout this week of just making sure that both all parties involved, the businesses, the municipalities, DOT, that questions are being answered, and we're not just assuming that this is business as normal, right? We know that there's going to be people. Let's be honest, there's some anxiety with that, right? This is going to be, probably one of the largest influxes of folks that we've had since the storm. And there are committed partners in all of these areas to make sure that this goes as well as possible, and to quickly evaluate where things stand after the weekend, right? So hopefully this all goes well. I think some other, I'll call it tourism assets, are getting ready to open up. Big news earlier today, as the light goes out once again. Should be like my cue that this should be over, right? But big news today was that Grandfather Mountain announced that they are opening tomorrow. That's October 23rd. So getting that partner back in line is an important step. But we're getting there, right? We understand that there's a lot that still has to be done. There are lots of our areas of our community where important work is still being done, and people are still trying to figure out their living situation and those types of things, and making appointments with insurance adjusters and trying to get FEMA money. I think that's another important thing to note, that as of this morning, $5.1 million of individual assistance has been authorized for FEMA. That's direct payments. That's not loans. That's direct payments to Watauga County residents. $5.1 million as of this morning. About $10 million has been allocated in Watauga, Ashe, and Avery counties combined. And that number is only going to go up as more FEMA representatives are deployed throughout the community. So again, just keep that in mind. That's help that's coming, that's helping our citizens with things like the loss of property and some of those essential things. It's not just everybody getting their $750. It's a whole lot more than that, and that's being demonstrated at this point. So keep with it. We're going to keep you updated on things. Let us know if you got questions about the grant. We're happy to answer those for you, and know that as information continues throughout the week, which we anticipate that it will, we'll get that to you as quickly as possible.